Now it's time for today's perspective, and the world has been marking International Day to End Impunity for crimes against journalists. The internationally recognised day highlighting the fact that in the last 20 years alone, more than 1,700 journalists have been killed just doing their jobs to try to get the truth to the public. Now this year, as part of that, the organisation Reporters Without Borders is unveiling the profiles of whom it calls 34 press freedom predators who attacked journalists and the right to information in 2025. We're going to talk about some of them here on set with me, with the Director General of Reporters Without Borders, Thibaut Bruttin, who joins us now. Thanks very much for coming in. Before we talk about specific cases, I mean, just more generally, I assume the way the world is at the moment, it's becoming harder and harder for journalists to do their job.
Yeah, and there is a series of crises that are affecting journalism. We have obviously the return of violence against journalists and the erosion of support to the protection provisions of journalism that we've seen in Gaza. But we also have a declining trust in media, an economy that's weaponized against the media, and legal and political harassment. So the predators list that we issued is a reflection on that. I think it tried to highlight the diversity of the threats on press freedom.
Yeah, you've done sort of divided them into characteristics, haven't you, to give those different methods, as you say. One of the faces featured in your set of playing cards is Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli Defense Forces. You say the IDF responsible for the deaths of nearly 220 journalists in the last year.
Yeah, we've seen a deliberate policy strategy, I would say, of the IDF since the conflict in Gaza started. Which includes the blockade of international press not being able to enter Gaza. You have smear campaigns organized against Palestinian journalists, and you have the targeted killings of Palestinian journalists. So this is unprecedented in the scope, in the magnitude, and we're very worried that this precedent will encourage other armies around the world to behave in a similar fashion.
And a lot of anger, as you say, about access to Gaza from journalists.
Absolutely. And the ongoing litigation at the Supreme Court in Israel, RSF is part of it, has been dragging on. The IDF have been given 30 more days to explain their position on why they do not open the Gaza Strip to the press. It's been over 2 years, so I think it's preposterous to give such a delay. We need the press now in Gaza.
The other, of course, huge conflict that we've been covering a lot here on France 24, the Ukraine war. Two of the characters appearing, Vladimir Putin, Belarus's leader, Alexander Lukashenko as well.
Yeah, they've been masters at building a media ecosystem that just favors their voices. And if you look at the resilience of Russian or Belarusian journalists since 2022, they've been able to continue their work, but outside of their national territories. And we have a duty to be able to maintain the media lifeline of Russian and Belarusian independent media outlets transmitting from the European Union and neighboring countries.
I mean, it's been easier, hasn't it? Obviously, on the Ukraine side, we've had journalists reporting from the front line. France 24 had a team inside Russia when that incursion happened into the Kursk region. So from that point of view, from the Ukraine side, it's been relatively easy to get that kind of information out to the public.
Yeah, it proves that a good willing army, which is willing to put in place some policies, is able to favor an open coverage of a conflict. I mean, it's not 100% open, and for obvious reasons. The Ukrainian army is relying on the professional capacities of journalists not to disclose strategic information that would jeopardize the military operations. And let's trust journalists. These are professional people that know how to handle secrets, military positions, and they act responsibly in Ukraine.
Two names I wanted to mention who we've talked about a lot in the last year here on France 24, Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Elon Musk is in there, Donald Trump isn't. So explain why and why not.
So we did put Elon Musk, not necessarily as a disruptor of, I would say, the economy of the media, but more as one of the haters of the press. 3 times a day, he posts a tweet in which he shames or blames the legacy media for whatever he wants. And so he's been a massive hater of journalists. Donald Trump is not part of it. I mean, we didn't want to have too obvious, or too usual suspects. But we did put Brendan Carr, the FCC chairman. We did put Alden Capital, which is, a massive fund that is investing in media and laying off a lot of journalists. So we try to cover the US from, I would say, less obvious perspectives, because Donald Trump obviously is a scarecrow, but there is, a series of people that are working alongside the Trump administration to dismantle, I would say, the ability of the press to continue its work.
As you said, you really wanted to talk about other places and other organisations as well. Give us a few of your, if it's the right word, highlights then, the people and the organisations which you feel really should be at the centre of this.
So, for example, I think we don't speak enough of the smear campaigns against journalists. Journalists' ability to convey the truth or facts is undermined both by people that are trying to present journalists as activists or as lazy conveyors of press statements. And we did put on the list Honest Reporting, which is an Israeli kind of NGO that is smearing Palestinian journalists to try and demonstrate that they're all affiliated to Hamas. RSF itself has been the subject or the victim of some of their articles. And, it's not really like something that is journalistically valid. It's just like trying to highlight things in a certain way to serve the narrative of the IDF. So that's just an example. Another example I would like to give is Vincent Bolloré, the French media mogul, is being consistently, actively buying media, transforming them into vectors of his own ideology and opinions and economic interest, up to the point where it becomes, I would say, almost a systemic problem for the news media in France.
How difficult is it to draw the line? I mean, it's very difficult, isn't it, anyone can stand up and say they're a journalist. But some people are obviously reporting from a very biased point of view, in which case perhaps people have the right and good reason to criticise people who claim they're journalists.
Yes, we need to draw a line, and the question of who is a journalist has become, one of the most important questions for the future of journalism. And going forward, we need to gather people that share the same ethos, the same ethics, the same deontology, and yes, be able to draw a line. I don't know any profession that survived without kicking out the crooks. And it's true that journalists today are facing competition with commentators, commercial salesmen on the internet, but also propaganda people or influencers. And what is the core value of journalism? And that's what we have to redefine and to bring back a virtuous circle for those who abide by the ethical standards.
And it's interesting, isn't it, when you talk to ordinary members of the public, a lot of the time if you ask them who are the professions that you don't like or you're suspicious of, the answer comes back often journalists, which actually perhaps they should think about it from the other perspective, that it's the journalists who are actually giving them the information that they need on a daily basis.
Yeah, and we need to look deeper into what the public says. And usually the public has claims against journalists which are not necessarily claims addressed to journalists. They confuse freedom of the press with freedom of expression. They confuse also social media and news media. And we also need to hear what they have to say. They want a news cycle that is, slower, that the news bulletins are able to distinguish between what's important and what is not. And also they want more facts and less opinion. So I think the transformative power of what the public has to say needs to be understood in order to change the way journalism operates today.
So sum it all up for us then, briefly if you can. Why is it so important that journalism is allowed to flourish and be free?
Well, as far as we know, in the 21st century, journalism remains one of the best relationship to facts that the public can entertain.
Good to have you with us. Thank you very much for coming in and explaining it to us. Thibaut Bruttin, Director General of Reporters Without Borders, for joining us for today's perspective. Thanks very much.